There are so many genres of tarot and oracle decks. Like ice cream, there is a flavor for everyone to enjoy. Which genre is your favorite? Do you gravitate toward the wonderfully whimsical decks? Do you enjoy a good fairy tale deck? Do you revel in the beauty of a female-centric deck? Maybe you appreciate an uber-modern deck that celebrates today's diversity. I personally have a weakness for decks containing old art and vintage photographs. Why, you ask? These images haunt and beckon to me. They put me in a constant state of wonder with the question, dear ancestor, how did you do it? How did you get through the perils of your life? How, as a man, toiling day after day in the fields, doing everything you need to do to feed your family, deal with being emasculated by Mother Nature, who destroyed your crops, and now you have to endure the indignity of watching your family starve. How, as a desperate mother of a dying child, were you able to helplessly watch the suffering of your child with no hospitals or medicines to help alleviate the suffering of your child? How did you do it? And how, as a person of color, living in a land and culture not your own, deal with the moral injustices, discriminations, indignities, and brutalities placed upon you? How did you do it? With all that you had to endure, when did you find the time to live and to love? What were your methods of coping with hardship and tragedy? Reading with these decks helped me to feel a little closer to my ancestors and to those who have gone before. My dear ancestors, I am in constant awe of your resilience and pose the question to you and to those who have lived before. Have we, as your descendants, lost the grit and strength you had to call upon time after time to get you through the real and not self-imposed challenges of this life? I wonder. I truly wonder. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid. Now, today I have an unboxing, but it is not an unboxing of the newest, brightest, shiniest Kickstarter deck. It is a deck that has been out for a few years, and it is one I have hesitated to put in my collection. It does fit in a certain category, genre of decks that I love, and because I have basically two main decks in this genre that I love and use quite a bit, I was, hesitating whether I should bring this in. But in the end, 3 years later, I have conceded, I've ordered it, and it's come all the way from the UK. You see her beautiful Her Majesty on the stamp, and we are going to take this out of the box, and I'm going to show you the other decks I have in my collection that fit in this genre. We're going to look at side by side, and I'm going to take a fresh new look at this deck and see if it was a good decision to bring it in. All right, so let's get All right, so I have unboxed the Stretch Tarot by Joseph E. Stretch. Now this deck, it looks like it originally came out in 2016. There is the box. I know he's changed it a little bit. I think the box maybe has changed. Maybe the cards have changed. I don't know. I don't have the early editions. I just have what's available now to go by. So if you have this deck and you notice anything different, let me know in the comments below as we go through it. So first I'll say it's a tuck box, and it's not an especially sturdy tuck box. But I knew that going in. I've seen other unboxings, and I knew this was going to be just a standard tuck box. And it looks like now there's a little white book available for download. Okay, so it doesn't come with a little white book. And now let me know if the original, you know, when it first came out, if it did actually have a little white book. Now, one thing I remember from seeing this deck, I fell in love with the backs. I just love these backs. What I remember about this deck, it's been a while since I've seen, you know, a deck walkthrough of this deck, but it's digitally manipulated photographs from the 19th century, early 20th century, and I love this genre. If you've been on my channel, you know that I love this genre. The old photographs, this kind of mixed media art, and especially with the old photographs of people who have long since been dead, they really speak to me, and I find it great for shadow and ancestor work. I also have Mr. Stretch's Stretch Lenormand deck, which I did back on Kickstarter sometime a year ago, a year and a half ago. And I do really dig the, you know, the collage, mixed media work. And I also wanted this deck because I thought it would be good to work with the Lenormand deck together. Now, the two other decks that I have in my collection that fit this niche and that get heavy use in my collection is the Relative Tarot by Carrie Paris and the Antiquarian Tarot by Marie Bento. Now, both of these decks are unavailable, though I think with the Antiquarian Tarot, if you really like it, I think you could just email Marie. She's very receptive. She may consider another printing of this deck. Now, the Relative Tarot from Carrie Paris, I backed this on Kickstarter. I think it was my first Kickstarter back deck that I did, the first campaign I participated in. Took a long time to get to me, but it was worth it. And because I had backed this in that time that this was being created, I found out that this was in existence, but I held off because I knew I was getting this, and I think I already had this. So that's why I held off. Now, the Relative Tarot, if you fall in love with this deck, it is coming to the mass market as the solo tarot deck. Now, this set, the Kickstarter version, the indie version of the Relative Tarot, also comes with an 80 card Spirit Oracle, which is not, to my knowledge, coming to mass market, just the tarot deck. So you can pre-order it on Amazon. Just look for the Relative Tarot, and it looks like the cards are going to be very beautiful. I've already pre-ordered that, but you know, you're not going to get this nice double box with two decks. But if you love the tarot, because I'm going to show you the tarot here, you can get the deck. It will be available for the mass market. So what I think we're going to do now is we're going to do a musical flip through of all of these decks side by side. hope you enjoyed that musical flip through of all 3 decks. Okay, you guys, what do you think? Did I make the right decision in purchasing this deck? Now, one thing I will tell you between these 3 decks, okay, all digitally, there's digital collage, but I do appreciate the more messy nature of the stretch tarot. Now you've got some of this mixed media here in the Antiquarian, with the pasting and the paper, but from the stretch tarot you really do get a sense of markers and alcohol inks and paper and textured paints and tapes and washi that were used to create this deck, and then also some, of course, digital manipulation. I really, really like that. I appreciate that. The one thing also, let me skip ahead a little bit. One thing that a lot of people may not appreciate is once you get into the minors, you do have one little keyword. So depending on how you read, it may not correspond with your view of the cards, or sometimes my view of the cards it'll depend on the reading and the deck I'm using. It'll change slightly according to the imagery I'm seeing and the intuitive hits I'm seeing. So sometimes a card, the 3 of Wands might read a little differently according to the deck I'm using and the situation, if that makes sense. Maybe some readers, it's just, the meaning of the cards is just what, a staunch, this is it. This is how I see the cards. It's just one way. And some readers may be that way, but mine tends to change. Now, for the instance, you can see the buttons that were added, the textured, I don't know if these are fabric or actual flower petals that were created. You get a little bit more messiness to and then you see he's, highlighted this phrase or term or passage, target in sight, for the 3 of Wands. And I think that's very clever. And that is something that he did with his Lenormand deck as well. Look at the burnt matchsticks. So it's got, and the torn paper and all of this, those of us who like to dabble in mixed media art and maybe junk journaling can really, really appreciate this work. One card I wanted to go back to. Now, I saw this deck recently in one of Lisa Papez's To Keep or Call, and this deck was in question for her, and she pulled out this card, and she said it was just one that, she had a visceral reaction to. She didn't really know what it was supposed to mean. And for me, the Ace of Wands, this opening here and the fact that it has the keyword creation, to me, and everybody might not see it this way, but let me find the words to put it delicately. This is the portal of life. The portal of life of maybe, the female anatomy, to me. And that's just the first inkling I get. The first thing I get from seeing this card, the part of the Michelangelo painting, the opening here, the keyword creation, and just how it's kind of burnt here. And without going into graphic detail, this is the portal of life right here, this opening, the portal of creation. And that's just what comes to me. So you noticed in the walkthrough there were some overlapping cards, but portrayed and articulated in a very different way. And I think there was some overlap here. I think there were different cards with George Armstrong Custard as a knight, I think, being depicted in, or a page in you know, each of these decks. So there were some overlapping cards amongst the decks. There are no extra cards in this deck. Now in the Antiquarian Tarot, you get 2 significator cards as well as an art card, and quite a thick guidebook, very thick with a lot of really good information in it. For the Relative Tarot, at least in the indie version, you get all these extra cards that you can swap out. You get an extra for the major arcana, and then you can see you get, you know, other options that you can pick and choose and swap out, and like Strength and Justice with the alternative numbering. Yeah, she included that. She thought of everything, really. So yeah, there are quite a few cards that you can swap out as you choose. Also, because this deck is also meant to be, the focus is like birth and working with your birth significator and annual cards. You'll see these numbers on the sides. I'm tickled pink with this deck, the Relative Tarot, because it does depict quite a few famous people in it, and you can see you get a few, the Lover's card, you know, you get 2 female presenting figures, 2 male presenting figures here, and then the one I keep is the one of each, just because, you know, for my purposes. But it's nice to know that you can swap it out. I mean, Carrie Paris thought of everything. She really did. Now, I don't know if it'll be interesting to see if the mass market deck will include all these extra cards. Don't know. Now, this was a mess up in the original Kickstarter, because the 10 of Wands, you see it's supposed to be the 10 of Pentacles, but we did get the correct card eventually. Now with the Relative Tarot, you just get a little book talking about how to use your, you know, find your birth cards and the formulas, and working with a significator card, a little bit of astrology. So it's not really like a how to read tarot. There are keywords, but it's pretty rudimentary. Now I don't know if the mass market book will contain more, or if it's just going to be an exact duplicate of what was done in the indie deck. So let's do a little shuffle. Yeah, they're a little bit stiff right now because they're new. They don't feel as luxe. The cardstock isn't as luxe as my other 2 decks. You know, I think I'm really going to enjoy this deck. I love this kind. Look at this, alcohol inks. There's texture. I think there was a missed opportunity. I would have loved to have seen this deck in a linen cardstock. I just think that would have done justice to the art. I love the messiness of this deck. As I said, I think thing to do is to check back with y'all and see how this reads for me going in. I'll have to use this deck and see if it's as clear a reader as the other 2 decks that I have. I do really enjoy the imagery. To me, the keywords, some of them do kind of correspond with how I read the cards. Some of them are kind of but they are so small, and I don't focus on the keywords. You know, some cards, tarot decks with keywords, they are quite large. These are very small. And again, he did that with the title of the cards. He kept it very small, but it is very legible. And you do just tend to focus in on the card. And I really like that. It does have a very different feel to the other 2 decks. So yeah, it will be very interesting. So that's the end of the video. I want to know in the comments below, did you think this was a good purchase? Did you think I should have just stuck with the other decks? If you have all three of these decks or any one or two of them, let me know how they read for you. And do you like the messier mixed media quality of the Stretch Tarot compared to the other two? I really like it. Again, wish it was just on a little bit better cardstock. Linen, I think, would have been perfect for this deck, but I think just from feeling it, I think it'll be a very usable deck for me and for what I would use it for and for my purposes. I think it's a very beautiful deck. Okay, with that, I will leave you to get on with your beautiful day. Bye for now.